Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Medicine Walk. This is Dr. Ayleen with another day of really intense weather and living in the mountains the way I do. It is sort of kind of a catch is whether or not each day are the roads going to be open? Are the roads going to be closed? And that's very much like life. You start off in the morning with one intention, and the day may take you somewhere where you had no intention of going. For me, it was a very unusual detour in order to be able to get in, to be able to broadcast today. And there is also that place of where our life is and where we expect it to be. And a lot of people seem to be right now going through a lot of challenges regarding that. And that's going to be something we're going to be talking about today. And that's why I'm calling this Telling Yourself a Better Story. Because one of the ways that when we first start off with whatever it is that we want to do, however it is we want to move through life, we kind of set up a story in our head. And what I mean by story is something that kind of makes an event make sense. It's the context that you put it into. Okay, as an example, let's say that I got a flat tire and I could not attend an event. Well, if I didn't want to go to that event, that flat tire suddenly becomes this amazing, wonderful thing. And like, hey, I'm off the hook. But if I wanted to go to that event, that flat tire becomes the worst thing that could possibly happen. So it's not so much the event, but the story we create around it. And one of the things that we often create stories about is ourselves and what kind of person we are and what do the events in our life mean. So when we talk about telling yourself a better story, it really is going to the heart of what it is that you want to be able to achieve, and then creating the mindset where it becomes a very positive thing. And like I said, I've been having a lot of talks with a lot of people lately. Some of them are very unsure about the future of this country, the future of the economy and of social rights and all of these things. And they're creating some tremendously hard stories. And some folks have pretty much got it set in their minds that it's going to be Mad Max Thunderdome. Other folks are saying, well, it could be challenging, but we'll figure it out. So what is the story that you create in order to make the world make sense? And one of the things that people go to in spirituality is that they want to find something to help them feel safe. They want to find something to help them feel empowered. They want to find something that will help them to feel that they're contributing to the world, that they have a reason to be here, a life purpose. And all of those are wonderful. And sometimes people are using spirituality because they want to try to escape their story. Now, the story is going to follow you because that belongs to you. It's yours. You created it, which means you have the power to change it. So let's say that you're going to that party and the flat tire happens and it was a party you wanted to go to. I know a lot of people who will just say, see, it's a punishment. I must have done something wrong. This is karma. This is, how did I create an offense in the universe that I don't get this? I never get nice things. And they just run with it. But it may just be that it was just a flat tire. It wasn't anything that you did. It wasn't anything that you brought into your life. It just happens. And sometimes the only answer to why is because, with nothing that follows it. Because sometimes things happen. Sometimes cool things happen. Sometimes not so cool things happen. So what do you want to do with your story? What is your story? Do you have one around maybe relationship, maybe your job, Some people create a story that, oh, well, I really want to do something else with my life. I want to do different work, and will list off all the reasons why they can't change jobs or why they can't leave their job. And that's important. It's important to acknowledge, and it's really important to understand. I don't want anybody to feel bad about their story. The story is yours, and you have it for a reason. At some point in your life, that story served a purpose. It may not serve the same purpose now. At some point, training wheels that initially serve a very good purpose no longer are needed. It's the same with our stories. And sometimes people give us stories. They aren't even a story we started off with. Maybe it's a story that you heard when you were very young, that maybe you weren't bright enough to do certain things, or maybe you weren't tall enough, or maybe you weren't athletic enough, or whatever that story could be. There's a lot of things that kind of get stuck onto us when we're children. And sometimes those things are really hard to shake off once we reach adulthood, because that same tape, that inner child that's inside of us, is still there living that story. And if you picture that little child, when you're getting ready to go do something, that child is going to say, no, we can't do that because we were told that we're not good at this and we're not good at that. And so we can't try that. And that influences us. And sometimes we want to go and find somebody who will either validate the story or take the story away and give us a new one, which isn't bad. It's always wonderful to be able to get help. It's good to be able to find someone who can help you sort through your stories. The thing is that you don't want somebody who will just give you a new one. Being given a story isn't the solution. The solution is for you to discover what your story is and really look at that story. And I know sometimes that can be scary. It can be scary to really take a good hard look at your truth. Because when we start off, the first thing we hit is the story. The truth lies somewhere behind that. So if you hit that story, and that story is either a very sad one or a scary one or one that makes you uncomfortable, a lot of times we aren't going to make it past it. It's sort of like having a big guard dog chained up out front. What's coming up isn't going to want to pass that. If you can get past the story, if you can allow yourself the possibility that it is a story and that something really important is on the other side of it, it makes it worthwhile to go for it, because it's in that place, the truth beyond the story. That's where the really cool stuff is. That's where your truth is, and that's where your power is. That's where everything that you have ever wanted lies, is in your truth. Because in your truth, you're a pretty amazing person. In your truth, you're strong. In your truth, you've survived a lot of things. In your truth, you've messed up. In your truth, you've made some really bad decisions. And on the other side of those decisions was the wisdom that you gained from it. So it's not about being afraid to face the story, because on the other side of it is something that really may be what you've always wanted to do or what you've always wanted to be. If you always heard that you couldn't sing, and maybe when you were little, people told you couldn't sing, and then you wait and you never try that, and you don't want to sing in public, which was something that I went through. At one point when I was very young, my sister was standing next to me in church. And one day she just looked at me and said, God, I hate standing next to you when we sing. And I took that at that very young age as a statement. I couldn't sing, and I did not sing publicly for decades. And finally, when I decided that I wanted to move past that, it was my reception after I graduated chiropractic college. And I wanted to sing a song for my then husband. And I wanted it to be, I'm everything I am because you love me. So I had to face down the story that I told myself. I had to face down that idea that I couldn't sing, that it wasn't, something that was good, that I was bad at it, that I offended people with it. Because once I had that story, I just kept stacking up on top of it as to how bad I was at it. And so I worked past that and I sang, and everybody was in tears and they said they loved it, except for one slightly inebriated uncle who looked at me and said, "Don't quit your day job." In that moment, I clamped onto that, because what did that do? That validated my old story. Even though all those other people had said that I was really good at it, that I could, echo. But because I didn't want to believe all the people who said I was good at it, I needed the one who would support my story, which I thought I had moved past it, but I hadn't. So when we look at the stories that we tell ourselves, what is being done to support it? Who do we have in our lives who support that story, who support that negative story? Because a lot of times when we think about it, it really is, the story is so much different from what the truth is. The truth was, maybe famous singers aren't going to lose sleep over me, but I do have a pleasant voice, and it's pleasant enough for me to be able to sing in a choir. So when you look at the truth of it was, in spite of all the things that I told myself about how I wasn't good at it, the truth was very different. And it is very easy to kind of look for somebody who will validate the story, because that makes it easier. And while, as I said, it's wonderful to be able to find people who can help you and guide you through this process, the concern or the thing to stay aware of is that no matter what story anybody gives you, it's up to you to decide whether or not it rings true in your heart. Now, if it's something that does ring true, then maybe you look at that. But don't accept a story just because someone hands it to you, even if it's a loved one, even if it's someone you're paying, even if it's someone who seems like a guru, or, oh my gosh, they have all this experience and they've written books and all of that stuff. None of that matters, because your story is your story. And by looking at it and figuring out, first off, does the story serve you or not? If it doesn't serve you, you can consider, do I still need this story? This story may have served me once, but do I really need it now? Is it really what's getting me to where I want to be now, in the present, in the moment? How does it relate to what I dream that I want to do? So take a look at your story. Don't be afraid, because the truth that you see ultimately that is going to be on the other side of it is really going to be a whole lot different. It's going to be something that has been hidden away for a while, and that you need to do a little work to kind of excavate it a little bit, because it's been buried in story. Consider it an archaeological dig, because what it is you're diving into layers that over time have built up and yet have treasures hidden beneath them. And yes, sometimes you have to do it really carefully. You have to, use a very delicate tool. Sometimes you have to look at that story in a very, very, very gentle way. Because if it's a story that's been tremendously hard, that has a lot of crust built up around it, because it's trying to protect something, it can be a real tough thing to be able to move past that. But you can. I know you can do this. And I know it seems hard. And I'm not saying to do it just because I think it's easy. I know it's not. I know it's hard to break out of a story. And I know that I've done that myself. And I realize how hard it is. And I believe in you. I know you can do this. It doesn't matter whether you believe that I believe in you or not, but I do believe in you. I know that you are capable of moving past that and seeing what the reality is of whatever it is that you're looking at. Because more than likely, especially if it's a story you've held on to, maybe it's that you have to do the job you're doing because no one else would hire you to do anything else. If you don't know that, then it's a story. One of the best ways to figure out if something is a story is to figure out, is there fact in it? Is there truth? Is this something I know, or is it something I believe? If it's something you believe, but you don't really have any solid evidence for, it's a story. You can tell yourself a really good story. The story is neither good nor bad. It's how much it helps you to be able to get where you want. And you can tell yourself a really, really good story. A story that starts with, and that was the moment at my darkest and my lowest point when everything changed. That was the point when my whole life turned around. That can be the story. You can tell the story that, you know what, by this time next year, I'm going to be out of debt. By this time next year, I'm going to have the job of my dreams. Because if you have to tell yourself a story, tell yourself a good one. Tell yourself one that gives you hope. It's not that you're lying to yourself or anyone else. And I like to watch other YouTubers and, just look at how people present themselves. And someone did a vlog on forced positivity. And the idea was that people were so into, turn that frown upside down and look on the bright side. And, if you just have a positive attitude, the world will be positive. No, it won't. Just because you're spiritual doesn't mean that everything gets easy. In fact, in some ways, it gets a little bit tougher. But the thing is, you have more tools to deal with it. And we'll be talking about that in another program. But the idea is that you don't have to force positivity. You don't have to think, well, I'm just going to think all these good things and then automatically good things will happen. It takes work. Like I've said, the saying goes, the only place where success comes before work is the dictionary. So when you have a dream, you can take it, you can decide, you know what? I want to make this dream come true. And the first thing you look is what's stopping you from that. And often what's stopping you is a story of how you're not good enough, how you can't do this. And that's not true. It isn't. If you can figure out a dream, you can figure out a way. If you can't hit that, how you can get close, how you can be able to make your life what you want it to be, how you don't have to be afraid of what other people do and what other people choose. I'm not into selling fear because honestly, and I mean, this is from my heart and it is my honest truth. We're going to be okay. I believe that firmly. I believe firmly that there is nothing that could come into my life, that could come into your life, that is stronger than the amazing spirit you've got within you and the talents that you have, because you do have them. Don't play small because you're afraid that stepping up and being big makes you vulnerable. It doesn't. You are able to do whatever it is you want. All you have to do is accept the possibility that, maybe I can do this. Even just squeaking the door that much can make a huge difference. It just takes a little. It just takes the willingness to look at the story, not worry about what other people hand you, the stories that other people tell you. Oh, well, if you want to be totally set within yourself, if you want to be totally at peace, you can take my course, or you can do this, or you can do that. And there's a lot of amazing, wonderful courses out there. Don't get me wrong. Still, look inside your heart, because that's where the real strength comes from. That's where the magic is. And I've taken lots of courses. that I've gotten tons of really good stuff out of. And I've taken some courses where at the end of it, it's like, well, okay, maybe not so much, but I learned something at each one. And it's really cool to learn it. You just don't surrender your autonomy. Don't surrender your truth to anybody else. If it rings true for you, that's where you go. Don't worry about what other people tell you, that you have to do this and you have to do that, and these are the ways. You know, there are many ways. Many rivers lead to the same ocean. And it's important to remember that maybe you have a stream that nobody else knows about, but it's yours. Claim it. Don't be afraid to be yourself, because I'd be willing to bet yourself is a pretty cool person, and yourself has a lot of talents. And that child that was told once that maybe they couldn't sing or they couldn't dance or whatever it is that they lacked to achieve a dream, you can go back and tell that child, you know what, we're going to give it a shot. We're going to take a chance at it, because we don't have to be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't worry about how you might look or what your family might think. Be true in your heart, because more than likely, the people who really love you, the people who are really your friends, they'll stand by you. They'll say, well, I don't see it, but if you want to give this a try, go for it. Take the leap, because it's a leap of faith. And when we think about, the stepping into the mystery, stepping into the unknown, because that's what going after your story is. It's a step into the unknown. There are certain animal totems that focus very much on that. And one of them is an owl. And this is actually a very cool little owl. And the reason I'm showing this little guy or gal, whichever you decide, is that it was contributed by one of our viewers and one of our subscribers. And they wanted to be able to allow this little one to find a home. So what we're doing is we're going to do a sort of a subscriber campaign. And what I would like to do is have, let's say 500 subscribers by the end of March. And in order to be able to kind of get that started off in a good way, what I'm going to do is this one is going to be finding a new home with one of our lucky subscribers. So what we're going to do is by February 10th, we're going to do a drawing of all the subscribers, and then we'll contact the one, and then we will be sending this owl straight out to you. It represents new beginnings. It represents seeing what most others can't see. It represents the magic that's within us and the magic that lies in the darkness of the night, because there's a clarity that comes in that. So if you'd like to have a chance to win yourself an owl, make sure you're subscribed, and subscribe by February 10th. After that, we'll have something else that we'll send out. But we're going for 500 subscribers by March. So subscribe, like, comment, and share. And if you are on Twitter, then you can go ahead and follow me on YouTube. And we're building a community. And this is a very cool way to do it. And it's tremendously cute. So thank you for joining me. And we're going to be covering more in this topic because of the fact that there are a lot of people who are kind of looking and searching for something to help them. And the first step in doing this is telling yourself a better story. Because believe me, there is definitely a better story inside of you. There's a better story in front of you. And all you have to do is reach for it. And if you're not sure how to do that, get some help. And if you can't find anybody to help you locally, contact me. You can reach me through the Medicine Walk with Dr. Ayleen Facebook page. You can, as I said, reach me through Twitter, subscribe here on YouTube, and you can also reach me at medicinewalkwithdrAyleen@gmail.com. So I'm wishing you all a wonderful, excellent day. If you're in weather that is interesting like I am, good luck. And most of all, I really hope that you consider your stories. Consider what it is that is holding you back. Accept that maybe it's not as real or as solid as you thought it was. Maybe there's a truth behind it that is a part of the magic and a part of the mystery. It's like going to an amusement park and trying to figure out, which ride you want to go on. And maybe a ride seems really scary, and yet there's something that pulls you towards it. There's some way that you want to overcome it. Working and living in a spiritual life, to whatever degree you want to, is about getting on the scary roller coaster sometimes. It can be hard. It can be scary, and it's amazing. It really is. I can't picture my life in any different way. And I would want that sense of awe, wonder, and joy in each and every day to be something that is a part of each and every one of your lives. Like I said, I don't have all the answers. I do come up with some really great questions. And those questions are to help you find your own answers. So, until next time, I wish you balance and I wish you blessings from my heart to yours. Love you.